All right, it's the end of the session. I'm here without Bailey and Baxter. They're inside their house. It's coronavirus time, so I sent the guardians in so I could take off my mask and do this little video. This is the roadmap to success. Now, Bailey is a dog that we worked with as a puppy, and she's a little bit reticent of new people, and I'm going to share a tip for that. But overall, she's a really well-behaved dog. Baxter is a corona dog. He's a dog that was adopted from the same shelter as Bailey, or same rescue, I should say, but was adopted during the coronavirus when a lot of people brought in extra dogs. The guardians here had another dog that unfortunately passed on, and it was tough for Bailey, but now she's got another companion she's also good buddies with, and they get along great. They were chewing fully six on the floor, and they didn't have any problems. Now, a little thing for Bailey. As humans, we think that petting a dog is a positive thing, so we do it no matter what. We don't think about how the dog's going to interpret it. But for dogs, a lot of times, if they don't want to be petted, what they're going to do is when you reach to pet them, they're going to turn their head to the side, or they'll lower their head, or they back away. Those are the dog's way of saying, I don't want you to pet me. We just think, well, I'm petting, it's a good thing anyway, so I pet him anyways. Eventually, one day, the dog's having a bad mood, and so they reaches to pet, and the dog snaps, and the person moves his hand away. And Bailey's like, oh, so if I don't want people to pet me, just snap at them and you'll get them to leave me alone. You can't tell me hundreds, if not thousands, of probably millions of dogs that develop a nipping or biting problem as a result of this. And so what I like to do is I like to hold out, we'll say this water bottle represents the dog. What I do if I reach to pet a dog is I stop here, about an inch or two from the dog's nose. If the dog turns its head to the side or leans back or dips down, I pull my hand away. The dog's like, oh, he listened to me. But if I reach like this and the dog goes like this, then I can reach down and start petting as long as the dog doesn't try to move away at that point. So one of the things I'd like you to do is I'd like to, and I know it's tough with Corona, but you have a lot of people in the neighborhood, try to go out and get people to meet Bailey, but just say, hey, we have a deal where, we're trying to teach Bailey that she's empowered. So if you want to pet her, just reach your hand out and hold it here in front of her nose. If she reaches forward, then give her a treat. If she doesn't, if she turns her head to the side, pull your hand back. And the more that happens, the more she's like, people are listening to me. And so I don't have to shy away from them, which is kind of one of the first things that dogs often do. And she's doing that a little tiny bit, but I can see her going down that road. Another great thing to do is, again, we're going to give you one of these, is have it loaded up with treats. And every time you meet somebody and they say, oh, what a cute looking girl. Can I pet your puppy? Yeah, well, she's not a puppy anymore. Would you like to give her a treat? I would love to give her a treat. Everybody always would love to give your dog a treat. Then they give the treat first. And then while the dog's chewing the treat, then they hold their hand out and the dog's like going to come forward. Are there more treats there? And then the person can start petting the dog a little bit. And if she consistently pulls away, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take one of the treats and I'll smash it like we talked about in the video above. So it's normally a pellet treat like here. Where's the camera? I'm going to smash it like that. And so what I could do is let the dog nibble on it. I'm holding it here in front of my body. So now this is the dog's tail, this is the dog's head, and it's nibbling on it in front of me. While it's chewing on it, I'm going to reach over here and touch the dog's flank, back hip, while it's chewing on it. I'm not petting, I'm just touching it. And if the dog stops eating the treat, then I pull my hand away. When it starts eating the treat, I just touch again. Do that about 3 or 4 times. And then eventually you do 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers, your whole hand here, and then you can start petting here. And eventually you're going to work your way up all the way until you get under the dog's chin. If for dogs that growl, but in her case, all I want to do is maybe have her chew on the treat, and while she's chewing on it, I probably reach my hand back and forth like in a wave motion. And so she kind of starts, she gets used to chewing on it. She kind of squirrel her head up and look at, but I'm not touching her. I'm just moving my hand back and forth. But it's the beginning of this movement to touch her. And so first I'm going like this, then I'm going like this, a little bit more elongating, then a little bit more, and eventually, and she's getting the treat the whole time. And eventually, when I get to the point where I can touch her, I do this, and if she stops chewing the treat, I pull my hand, or I leave my hand there, or I pull it away. And it gets to the point where she keeps chewing it while you're touching her, while you're petting her. Then the next stage would be, I would do that, like let her chew on it, pet, let her chew on the next one, pet, and chew on the next one, and all the rest of the treats go away, pet. Then I would touch and then treat her. So now we're switching, and this is an important part of counter conditioning work, and we talked about in the video above, talked a lot during the session. So now, at first we do it, just get her feel comfortable, then the treat, then the stimulus happens, the touch, then I get a treat. At first it's touch, treat within half a second, then it's touch, and then 1 second, then touch, 2 seconds before the dog gets a treat, 3 seconds of petting before they get a treat. So now the dog's getting accustomed to people pet me, and then I get treats afterwards. And since the pet is desirable and the dog's not turning away and people are listening, she starts feeling like I don't have to move away. Now you see behind us we have a pool, and I'm going to jump in this pool in a second. It's hot. But neither one of the dogs like to use the pool. Now if you have a pool, you have to be careful if you train your dogs to go in the pool, because A lot of dogs drown because they fall in the pool, they get disoriented, they can't find their way out. So if you do get your dogs in a pool, it's ideal. Right here we actually have steps. You can't see in the shop, there's steps right here, which is ideal. So you never pull the dog out, always make the dog come out this way, and after they do it enough, their neural pathways get locked, a myelin sheath develops in their neural pathways, and they just kind of always will come out of here. So if you're interested, and I'll mention this to you when I get to film this video, let me know. I can maybe stop by next weekend. I have a dog named Callie that loves the water, and she's fine with other dogs. She barks a little bit, but we might come over, if you guys will have me, and get in the pool a little bit with Callie. And if Callie jumps in and out of the pool a couple times, that might help spur their interest in wanting to go in there, because that's a great way to burn energy. Now, we went through this session a little bit faster than we do in other sessions, because I literally just did a couple sessions with Bailey when she was a puppy. And so the Guardian, and they also took all of our puppy classes, familiar with a lot of the techniques we went over. We talked about exercise. Remember that doggy stairmaster? Don't be afraid to do that. Just remember, always have an empty stomach. But do those sort of things before the exercise that we did above, the counter conditioning exercise. And again, play around with the number of repetitions. You might find it's 17 or 27 or 48 or however many numbers that you need to do. Just make sure that the dog gets a time to relax while you're practicing, before the next thing happens. So I'd probably do it with Bailey first. So you exercise the dog separately. When then Bailey goes in the other room with just to chill out, and while Bailey's recovering, then we do a little. I probably actually, now that I think about it, I'd probably do it with Baxter first. Maybe 12. I do 12 with Baxter. Baxter's recovering. While Baxter's recovering, we give him wait a minute or two, and then we grab Bailey, and we do however many Bailey needs. And maybe we get Bailey 50% of her maximum. While she's doing that, the other Baxter's calming down. When Bailey's done, she's really tired. We put her in a room by herself, or outside, or wherever she can kind of relax. Then we practice the technique with Baxter. So we kind of set Bailey up by depleting her energy. We set Baxter up by depleting his energy, but then we were able to practice when Bailey's away. And so if not, then you might need to arrange to have a dog walker or somebody else, or put one of the dogs outside with a bully stick or some reason. So you want to practice that technique with the dog separate. Now, looking at the in the den, remember that maintenance I talked about? I would put that down at the bottom of the really from where the window breaks on the windows that face your front of your house, so they can't see out there. You might also put it on the two bottom rungs of the door that leads out here to the pool area, because I could see the dogs kind of looking in each other if you're practicing the technique in that office area. All right, so doggy stairmaster, hiding treats around, get 2 snuffle mats, and then start making the dogs wait for permission to eat. So put the food in those 2 snuffle mats, put them in the kitchen or wherever. Then the human eats something at 5 bites first. Then we invite the dogs to eat one at a time. Bailey gets to eat. When Bailey's eating, Baxter's not allowed in the kitchen. When Bailey gets done, she has to leave the kitchen. Then we invite Baxter in, and Bailey's not to be allowed in when Baxter's eating. So both dogs see us controlling, not letting them in, or not letting the other dog in when they're doing it and having their back. The more we act like leaders, the more they're going to be willing to listen to us, and that will help with the marking problem that we have with Baxter as well. Let me see what else. For feeding. So I described a little bit of that touch feeding. So what I'd like you to do is switch over to the snuffle mats, but maybe 1 meal a day, the female guardian here would feed Baxter by hand and do that technique. And if you forget how to do that, message me. I have a video I can share with you that shows you how to do it. But I think if you're providing the food and he's eating in last position, and you're literally holding the food and you're handling him while he's feeding, those are all things that are going to help him see you as a little bit more of an authority figure. All right, now, and don't be afraid to do the exercise if it's been a long while since the dogs have had exercise, or if the dogs are naughty or misbehaving and barking a lot. How long has it been since they've been exercised? If it's been longer than an hour, then take them, do a little bit of exercise first, and then if they do it again, that might be something we need to work on, that particular problem. But negating the exercise, the energy is one of the first things. We also talked about rules, not being on the furniture, which is going to be the hard rule for one of the guardians in the house. But make sure that, remember, you can always cuddle with them, you can pet them with your feet, you can go down to their level, they just can't come up to your level. If they're getting on the furniture, you might want to get X pads, X mats, X MATS. You can order them on Amazon or Chewy. They're little plastic books that usually in the shape of an X. You unfold them, they have plastic nubs on them. They don't feel good to lay on. So you put them on all the cushions in the house, and that helps keep the dog off the furniture. I think part of, remember the marking, no free pets, no furniture. Now the bed can be different, but that's again only with an invitation to the bed, and that's different only for sleeping. So I would definitely order those X mats and put them on all the places the dogs like to get, and that will hold them off for you. And for dogs, it's not so much you enforcing it, that's important, but it's them sitting the same height as you, says that we're peers. If you're up here and the dog's down here, they see a literal distinction between the two of you. Okay, so other rules, we talked about having to sit at the door, and I would probably change out the doorknobs because Bailey is a smart dog and she knows how to open the door. She demonstrated about a dozen times during the session. So change those to regular brass-fitted round doorbells. You might have to get the extra kitty thing that goes on top of it, but we want to break her of that habit. She just comes out at the wrong time, and there's a construction guy that needs to get in your yard for something, leaves the gate open. It's the 4th of July, you might never see her again. And so it's funny to watch, but it could be problematic. So the other thing, making them sit at the door will help with that. That's one of the other rules we went over. Go to the door, say sit one time. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, sit down nearby, wait for 1 minute, then go back and ask, and don't ask, command them again. If they don't sit this time, then sit down for 2 minutes. Next time, sit down for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep doubling the length of time until eventually when you sit down, the dog, or when you say sit, the dog sits down right away. When it sits, you open the door and let him out. If Bailey sits and Baxter doesn't, open the door and let Bailey out and close it for Baxter. So pay based on performance. Do it with this door, whichever direction they really want at first, and then eventually do it with both directions, and then start doing all doors in the house. And look for opportunities to close the door. Since the bedroom is just a resource guarding, maybe we close the door to the bedroom so dogs can't get in there during the day, so Baxter doesn't have a chance to kind of claim his territory. So that'd be another rule. Another rule, it can't be within 7 feet of anybody's eating. So we have a little nice carpeted area around the table. So I'd say the dog's not allowed to be on the carpet when there's food on the table. Not being allowed around 7 feet of any of the humans who are eating. When they're eating, when the food's gone, the boundary disappears. And not being allowed in the kitchen when the humans are preparing food. I have videos on how to teach a dog to stay out of the kitchen. You can just go to my website and search for invisible or the word kitchen, and you'll be able to find videos pretty easily. If you can't find them, message me. I'm happy to share them with you. One other addendum to the rule, well, 2 things. Make sure the humans are eating something before they feed the dogs, and the dogs should be fed one at a time. The other thing is, let me see, lost my train of thought a little bit. It'll come back to me. Yeah. Oh, the door. See, I told you it would come back. So you can also message me if I don't put it in there for leash, calm leash, another thing you can search for on my website, and then also wait at door. And if you can't find any of the ones, let me know. So wait at the door, you go to the door, once you've conditioned the dogs to sit there by them quietly, then I would go with 1 dog at a time and practice the sit at the door. Well, sit at the door, you can do 2 dogs. You're only going to reward the one who complies, unless they both comply. But go to the door with 1 dog, and then tell the dog to sit. If it sits within 3 seconds, reach for the handle. Let's say the handle is right here, the corner of the screen. So I reach up this far, the dog gets up, I pull my hand back down, and I tell the dog, sit. If it sits within 3 seconds, I reach again. It gets up, I pull my hand back down, say sit. I reach a 3rd time, gets up, I pull my hand back down, sit. The 4th time, I reach, the dog gets up, I pull my hand back down and just look at the dog. I don't say sit. If the dog sits, then I reach again. If it doesn't sit, I would go sit back down and wait for the dog to lose interest before practicing again. So at first you're going to go only this far, then it'll be this far, then you'll be able to actually touch it, then you can actually pick up the leash or whatever the activity is. And so by breaking the activity down into small individual steps and helping the dog understand that I'm not allowed to go through that door, or we're not going on the walk unless I completely stay calm. You're teaching the dog the behavior that's expected from them. Now from the door, once you can act, the first stage is just reaching for it, the second stage is touching it, eventually jiggling as loud as you can, but the dog stays put. The 4th stage is to actually jiggle, pop the door just a 1/2 inch and then close it right away and put your hand back to neutral. And you're putting your hand back to neutral after each one of these steps. Eventually you can open it 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch, and the dog starts to alert to get up. You close the door, wait. If it sits, then you continue. If it doesn't sit, you go sit back down. The experiment is over. That repetition's over. Eventually, you'll be able to go tell the dog to sit. It stays sit. You open the door all the way. It stays seated. And the way you assign a command word for each dog to leave is then you show the dog you have a treat, roll the treat outside the door, so it has to be all 4 feet outside the house. And then when it goes outside, come up with a word for that dog that means to go outside. I jokingly said Adventureland for one dog and Disneyland for the other dog because it's fun. Well, whatever fun names you want to come up with, remember, use those fun command words. And so now I can actually open the door. Dogs are both staying in there, developing and practicing self-control. I carry the food out for the barbecue, put my plate down, walk back up there, grab something else, come back down here. Then I say, Disneyland, and then Baxter runs out. And Bailey's sitting there waiting and go, what about me? I say, Adventureland, then she runs out. So it's nice so you can let them out one at a time. If you have guests, the dog's not jostling to get through the door too quickly, knocking people over. It's just, and it's, like I said, it's a nice way for them to develop a little self-control. Most dog problems come because we don't help dogs practice self-control. We don't have any rules for them. We do everything for them. They have no reason to have any self-esteem or confidence because they do have everything done for them. And then when they can't do it for themselves, they get frustrated and they don't have confidence, so they just get very insecure about things. And so the more that you make the dogs work for things, the better. I'd like you to start putting like about 10 treats in a little plastic bag or a ramekin or a little plastic deal. And every once in a while, go over, grab one of the treats when the dogs are not with you and say, come. Whoever comes first and sits gets the treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get a darn thing. If they both bring you the same effort, then rip it in half and treat each dog. But what we're going to, right now, the guardians, like a lot of people, are making sure that both dogs get a treat no matter what, so we're fair. Well, then the dog who lollygags doesn't have any motivation to do it, and the dog who busted his tail, it's like, why should I bust my tail? I get the same payment that that dog gets. So instead, we're going to start paying them based on performance, and that jealousy becomes a strong motivator. Here at the table, the guardian asked one of the dogs to sit. She asked Baxter to sit 3 times, and he did sit the 3rd time. But she said sit. Baxter didn't sit. Bailey was laying down and sat up and said, look, I'm sitting. And the guardian ignored him and continued going after the dog that wasn't listening. We do this a lot. I've done this myself as a boss with the staffers. It's not a good thing to do. Reward those who are doing the things that you want. That will motivate those who don't to get their stuff in line or to hit the road. And so it's a good way. We don't want the dog to hit the road. I'm talking about somebody else. But basically, for the dogs, that creates that motivation, that for them to want to please us. And dogs generally do want to please us. We just do a very poor job of communicating that. And to that end, I would like you to really get in the habit of celebrating the things the dog does that you want and petting with a purpose. Remember, celebrate is rewarding the dogs when they do the things that you want without requesting that they do it. A lot of dogs recognize by not coming to the human, I retain the human's attention. By not sitting, they keep on asking me for it multiple times. That's why we only say it once, then we move on to other things, and then the dog's like, oh no, I just completely lost out on that scenario. So get in the habit of, like I said, querying one dog at a time and then rewarding only the dog complies, or both of them if they do. And then at the same time, being cognizant. When the dog drinks water, say agua. When they eat food, come up with a command word for each one of them to eat. For Baxter, since he is a little bit patrolly, every time he picks up a certain bone, call it pacifier or whatever it is. Every time he does it on his own, we say pacifier and pet him, and just, man, every time I pick up this bone, they're just all over me giving this little mini massage. I like mini massages, so I'll start picking the bone more often. And what we're trying to do when we have dogs that are nippy, which Baxter isn't, but it can preoccupy their mouth, stop them from barking and everything else, teaching them to pick something up when they're agitated. And like a baby has a pacifier, so that's why I said the name pacifier. But basically, rewarding the dogs for desired behaviors will motivate them to want to continue to offer those behaviors. And now the dog's doing the things you want to get your attention as opposed to the others. Now I use the watchword of celebrate for that, so I point at you and say celebrate. That means the dog just did something and you missed it. You should just, if somebody says celebrate you should stop what you're doing as fast as you can. Turn and start petting that dog. And then identify what posture the dog is in or what the command is, and then say the command word once in a normal tone of voice. So celebrate means I think you missed an opportunity to pet the dog for a reason. Passive training, or petting with purpose, is petting the dog for a reason when you want to pet the dog, or if the dog is nudging, pawing, or barking, or demanding attention. Leaders tell, followers ask. So the dog tells you what to do and you pet it, you're saying, yes, you're the boss of me. And then the dog doesn't have to listen to you. So next time the dog nudges you or paws you, I'd like you to give the dog a counter order, tell it to sit. If it's already sitting here, tell it to sit here or here. It has to do something to change its state, or it could lay down. Don't practice shake. If the dog sits within that 3-second window, pet it on shin, say sit, and pet it as much or as little as it wants, as you want. If it doesn't sit within that 3 seconds, pull your arms back, look at something else, and show the dog, I have 7 other things I could be doing. I wanted to pet you, but you couldn't be bothered to sit, so I moved on to the next thing. That will motivate the dog to listen to you in the future. It makes your pets more valuable. It boosts the dog's confidence because it's earning those pets, and it also helps create a healthy leader-follower dynamic. Now, one of the other things the guardian invites when Baxter is being resource guarding, when she wants to come in the room, she'll invite him to come over and jump up on her and she'll pet him. Well, if the dog jumps up on you, that's this way of saying, you belong to me now. And in resource guarding, that's not a good scenario. So the guardian says she likes that activity, which a lot of people do. What I would do is I'd make that a command. So what I would do is I'd drop down on my knees and tap my chest to invite the dog to come up. When it puts its paws up here, I would maybe say hugs, or whatever the word is, cuddles, or whatever the word is you want. Come up with that fun command word. So then later on, so you're going down to their level and you're inviting the dog to come up. Right now, you're asking the dog to jump up on you, and that can, I think, like I said, is confusing to the dog. I'd prefer that you probably don't do that for a little while. When you do it, you only do it when you're on your knees and only with an invitation. And if the dog jumps up on you, you didn't ask for it, pull your arms up like this and either close your eyes or look up the ceiling and just remain motionless, become boring. Just like in puppy class, eventually the dog will jump down. When it jumps down, tell it to sit or to lay down or do something else. When it does those things, you pet it under its chin and say sit. If you tell us, if you go like this, it jumps down, you say sit and it just walks off, don't, just let it go. But we don't want to reinforce the wrong behavior, because the more that you do that, I think the more they're going to continue to do that. All right, now if you have any questions on the stuff we went over or anything else, please let me know. Remember to call Anna if you are going out of town on any trips, and she'd be happy to come by and watch your dogs for you. She has a thing for shepherds, and she's who I trust with my dogs. Just make sure you let her know with as much notice as you can, especially if it's a big holiday weekend. A lot of people obviously travel and look for some help, and so the longer lead time you give Anna, the better. All right, well, normally I'd say this is Bailey and this is Baxter, but they're both inside in the air conditioning, and I'm out here with Anna and the camera. So I'll say my name is David, and this is Baxter and Bailey's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.